Hey everyone, thank you for joining us. Hey, in the chat box over there, tell us where you're from. Okay, we'll get started, and we're going to get started quicker tonight, so just keep on telling us where you're from. All right. Oh, gosh, that's Kyle. Goodness. Okay, hey, guys, I'm going to start quicker tonight. Biggest complaint we've had is it takes too long for us to get started, so I do have a few announcements we're going to go through. If you guys can hear me okay in the chat room, just say, I can hear you okay. That would be great. And so here we go. First slide. Can you see the slides? Okay. So tonight, I do want to, everyone goes, why do you keep telling us what PrepperNet is? Why do you keep making the same announcements? That's because these videos are going on YouTube, and you never know which video someone's going to watch. So I wanted to just remind you, PrepperNet is an organization of like-minded individuals. Can they hear me?
They can hear you.
Yeah, they can hear me. Of like-minded individuals. There, where was? Okay, there. That believe in personal responsibility, individual freedoms, and preparing for all types of disasters, including pandemics and zombies. Not zombies, sorry. This group is aimed at individuals that have an interest in gaining knowledge, acquiring new skills, and networking with like-minded individuals that are preppers and survivalists. We have meetups in 65 locations in the United States. There's a map. You can see all 65 of them there. We also are in 4 other nations. There's a leader that will lead every month meetup groups so you can get together and network. If you're not in a group, you're going to die. That's one of the statements I make. It's kind of funny. It's not true, but it could be true. Your most important prep is being in a group, period. Most important prep is being in a group. I don't care how many skills you have, the group will save your life. Next thing I want to tell you is I am the CEO of Son Oven International. If you don't have this device, you will die. All power goes out. You can't cook. You're going to die. If I said die enough?
No.
No, okay. Oh, by the way, I'll get to this guy in a second. Hey, I do have a discount. This Son Oven saves lives throughout the world. 1/3 of the earth still cooks with wood. This thing saves lives. It saves the earth. Let's be green. And so anyway, there's a discount. You can call if you don't remember the coupon. This is Kyle next to me. Can y'all see Kyle? Let me go over here.
Yeah.
No. Kyle. This is Kyle. If you ever listen to the Prepping Academy, this is the guy I killed.
No.
That's what everybody said. I killed you.
No.
And he's back. So
Back from the dead.
Back from the dead. So Kyle is in the house, and he's going to help me tonight. Next thing is, hey, the schedule we've had has been amazing. Dr. Bones, Charlie Hogwood. On Thursday, Friday was Jonathan Hollerman, Lisa Bedford. Saturday, Samuel Copeland, JJS. Sunday, Glenn Tate and Shelby was great last night. Tonight we have Dennis and Jeff. And tomorrow night we're ending with Scott Hunt. Will be in the house. And so I share this every night. This is hilarious. Who's all of a sudden become pretty popular with their friends? Probably you, because you're a prepper.
Why would you pick Forrest Gump? Though?
I know. It was on the Facebook site.
Wait.
Shut up.
It's because your name's Forrest.
Yeah.
Hey, is
Whatever.
life like a box of chocolates?
Listen, I can,
Yeah.
we can kill you again. And so I do want to say this, though. For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but the power and the love and of sound mind. We're not going to be preaching fear. We're going to be telling you guys our opinions, some facts, and we're going to try to help you gain knowledge so you can not be in fear.
I don't know if I've ever had a sound mind.
Well,
There's that.
Your wife said that too.
Yeah.
So anyway, I do want to mention this I think this is my last announcement. Guys, I'm giving away my book. It's free. I think it's still free on Amazon. Today's the last day. If it's not, I think it's free. I've given over 719 books have been downloaded. My book's been downloaded. It's called The Case for Christian Preparedness.
And it's really important because if for any reason the solar oven does not work, you have kindling.
Dude, that's
that
just
was funny.
wrong. That's
was
not
funny,
even
though.
funny, man. That hurts.
That's why you're
That
smiling.
hurts, man. So I do want to introduce our two guests that we're having this evening. One is Jeff Moats. I would say he's a friend. I see him every year. Once a year we see each other. We're good friends.
Yeah,
He's a great guy. He's an engineer, which I got two engineers to kind of finish up the something's wrong with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should have spread that out a little more.
I know. Jeff is an author of Once Upon Apocalypse, and he's written 3 books in that series. They're amazing books. They're very family friendly. And they definitely have a lot of praying and Bible stuff within there. The next is Dennis Diaz. He is the chief editor of Survival Ready blog. He also wrote a book called The 12-Month Prepper and Survival Playbook. And if you remember, he used to do the Prepper World Summits.
Gotcha.
I think I was in one of them. But he is in the house as well. And with that said, let's bring them both in. Oh, gosh. There we go.
There you go.
Say hi to everyone, Dennis and Jeff.
Hi.
Hello. Hey, Dennis. Nice to
Hi.
meet you.
Oh, yeah. Jeff, Dennis, Jeff.
Nice to meet you, Jeff.
So I'm going to ask you guys real quickly, if you'll just give us like a minute of your background and why I think you're an expert in the world. But Jeff, you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about your background. Take a minute and just tell us.
All right. Well, there's nothing really exciting or special about me. I was raised in a rural area in Alabama. Grew up on a farm where my dad was. He was old school. We raised our own animals. We raised our own food. Butchered our own stock. And I went off to college, became an electrical engineer, and I first got into prepping, I guess, back in high school, and I read a book called The Last Babylon, and it made a big impact on me. And so it's kind of I've been in some form of prepping ever since that time, and I've been studying it for, I don't know, 40 something years, and talking to family and friends on Facebook about it, and it just led into writing a series of stories to try to provide them with some information. And I don't know that I'd call myself an expert. People do hire me as an expert, but it's usually in the electrical field.
A humble man, for sure.
It's boring, I know.
Yeah, no, you're just a humble man. Hey, go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Awesome. So before I start, we were having pretty strong winds over here in New England, and the power went out about 20 minutes ago. So if you lose me, that's what's happening. I'm Dennis. I grew up in Puerto Rico, down there, a lot of fishing, lots of outdoor time. And actually, we had we didn't call it a bug out kit or anything, but we had an evacuation plan because we live up in the coast. And every time we had an earthquake, it was hit the road because we didn't know if the tsunami was going to come in. So I kind of like grew up in that scenario where always it was lots of time outside. I am also an engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer though by education. And in terms of prepping, I really got into actually through a friend. Through I was doing martial arts for a long time, and he was kind of like a prepper, and he kind of like opened my eyes early on. Like things that I used to do with my family and my parents, there were like normal things growing up. My grandparents had chickens, they had generators, water tanks, and things that were like we would get hit with a hurricane pretty much every year. Like more often than not, we would get 1 or 2 hurricanes. So being out of power for a couple of weeks wasn't a big deal. It's actually kind of fun as a kid, just not having power, doing other things. But then after I moved to the States, I kind of realized, well, there's a lot of things that I used to just do normally with my family that now seem like above and beyond, like storing water, storing extra cans of food and things in the basement. And it would kind of like led me through. It was more of an awareness moment. I was like, wait, we actually don't do this too often. Things that I just kind of forgotten a lot of it. So I really got into it, and I started. I'm not an expert for sure, but it was kind of like a way of growing up, and that's why I went through the process of creating the Preparable Summit, because I knew the questions that I needed to ask to actual experts, and if I could just serve as a conduit to people and share their message, that was kind of what I wanted to do. And yeah, and the rest is history. So,
All right.
Yeah.
Well, good. So we're going to ask you guys some questions, and Kyle, I don't know what Kyle's going to do. So this is the first night Kyle's been with me.
I'm a wild card.
If he touches my leg, I do have my gun right here. So, because we're sitting kind of close to be together.
Trust me, I'm the one who has to worry.
So, hey, so what's your opinion, Jeff? You've been following the coronavirus. You've been following what Donald Trump and the administration's been doing. What do you approve of what has been going on? Does it scare you? Do you think the government should be doing more? What do you think?
Well, I'm certainly not an expert in that area, but I'm not going to say I'm really overly concerned about it. It's a flu virus, and I just don't know enough about the disease itself to say, hey, it's going to be a really bad thing or not. I've been following some people on YouTube that's done some factual analysis of it, so I'm not getting fearful of it, but from what I understand, some of the precautions that you would take for this virus is the same precautions you would take for the regular flu. But whether the government's doing everything they can or not, I don't know. I'm following what the CDC says. I know the media has a way of sensationalizing things from time to time, and often when they do that kind of puts a little flag up to me that maybe what they're saying is not accurate.
Dennis, what are your thoughts on everything, big picture?
So big picture. So like Jeff said, like the precautions that they're recommending is no different than your regular flu. What I think it's been interesting this time around is that we have seen that, and the mortality rate of the virus itself is not as high as other flus and even the influenza. So what has been really interesting to me is our inability to stop it. Really, we haven't been able to effectively. The world hasn't been able to effectively stop this virus. And had it been a more dangerous, had it been a deadlier virus, we would be in a really crap shoot of a situation, because in reality, there's wash your hands and stay away from crowded places. But what tends to happen in situations when they're like this, like a lot of times the government will overreact, and what we see, whether it's the government and within the media, that overreaction, whatever we think of it, they act as if the worst elements of the population are going to be in fear, are going to be panicking, there could be violence. So that's the overreaction, and through doing that, there's a secondary and tertiary threats to our way of life that they're not even related to the coronavirus. It's just a way that the society, we as a society, react. But the most interesting part of it, for sure, for me, it's been our inability to contain it.
I kind of have a thing to interject here on that. In my reading, and we talk pretty regularly, as this continues to expand and the CDC doesn't really seem to be doing what they need to be doing, what they should be. There's not as many testing kits as there should be. It feels like it's being let go intentionally, partially because of the economics. We've seen the Dow slide the most it ever has in 124 years, and it's back up today, the most it ever has been in one shot in a single day. But I've read a number of articles, mainstreams put them out, Zero Hedge, Drudge, etc. And it's been stipulated that this virus could be let go. Mainstreams put them out, Zero Hedge, Drudge, etc.
I'm sorry, keep talking.
To proliferate, because the longer it continues. Oh my word!
Are you kidding?
I'm being dead serious. And I kind of see the sense behind it.
So if you guys don't know, Kyle is always the major conspiracy theory in the room, and so he went there. I mean, first question.
Yeah,
we're going to kill off the population so that the government can.
My understanding, if this is going to be a community virus, so initial mortality rate is what we're saying, 1.5, 2%.
Okay.
But secondary infection mortality rate's 30%.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds biblical to me. And what sounds biblical to me too is if the economy collapses, that gives way to a one world government. It can.
And that's what I was earlier when I was saying secondary and tertiary threats. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. I'm talking about economic impact. I'm talking about food supply and supply shortages. I mean, shame on us for putting ourselves in a situation where we get so much from China. Like we never had another country with so many chips over our heads. Like just think about, we can get Advil, right? Because it has these things like that. Like that alone, it's like not even depending on whatever call it whatever threat it is, coronavirus or whatever. Those things are like the things that will eventually get to the larger population. And then when you cut that, what's to stop the spread of other things?
Yeah, someone actually said they don't consider that a theory. I don't know. Jeff, what do you think? You think this is okay, so John Jacob the other night said that it was made in Canada, smuggled out of Canada, and then taken to China and released. Do you believe that? Really?
I do. I absolutely do.
What do you guys think? I mean, gosh, that's just...
I don't have any way of knowing that.
I'm like Jeff, man. You just can't call it until you know it.
I mean,
there are individuals that
we see on the news or possibly reported in some, YouTube people who that might have some knowledge. I don't have any special knowledge that I could share with you that would confirm anything like that or even deny it. But I don't think that's plausible. But I'm not saying it's not the case. But it could be.
People say it's weaponized.
I think that, it could be possible, but it's kind of irrelevant to an extent because the consequence of it is going to be the same regardless. And whether the one thing that we got to think about is, like you said earlier, is it being let go on purpose globally? Or is it, rather than weaponize and smuggle? I mean, that's a level of engineering that I'm not familiar or, nor have seen much evidence of, but I'm not gonna discard it, right?
Here, I'll actually quote this. There was an article back on July 14th, 2019, from a Canadian newspaper, and it goes in to specify that there were two individuals who were Chinese nationals that were suspected of a possible breach at one of their BLS-4 labs in Canada. They said there was no risk to Canadians, but beyond that is very vague. It just says an unknown number of students were removed. Suspected intellectual property theft. Yeah.
Okay. That went down a rabbit hole really fast there.
But this is the sort of thing that people are asking.
So this virus is out there. It doesn't seem as bad as everything we heard in the beginning. We thought the world was going to come to the end the first few weeks we were hearing about this thing. Everyone that gets it was dying. And we all know that, we're in pretty poor health in America, but they're in worse health, especially the men in China. Like 75% of them smoke. And so now that it's getting outside into some developing nations, some nations that aren't considered developing or third world nations, the death rate has definitely gone down to like a flu-like symptom. And, people are still sending me emails. It's not the flu. It's not the flu. And I'm about tired of hearing that. We're not saying it's the flu. We're saying it's acting like the flu, except the second time you get it. That is kind of interesting. That's new. But what do you guys think? I mean, what should we be doing? I mean, you read in Washington that 4 people have died. Of course, they're all had either over the age of, I think it was 70, or the 50-some-year-old guy was in had major health problems. They're panic buying in Seattle and in Washington. If it comes near a city near you, you think that's going to happen throughout the United States?
Personally, I'm doing what I would normally do in flu season. That's my method of protecting myself, and I guess my family. We're gonna wash our hands. We're gonna keep our hand sanitizer. When I go to the grocery store, I'm gonna clean off the carts before I use them. I'm going to try to stay away from people who are sick. I mean, I know there's, people can be carriers of this disease and
Yep.
Not have any symptoms. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure what else I could do.
And will you manage a company? What happens when some of your employees one or two of your employees get sick? They don't have the ability to work from home, do they?
No. But we get sick every year. We get guys get sick every year. They get not usually the flu, but bad colds. I don't know how this would impact us. But we're fixing to be in a warm season here. So I don't know.
I'll bring that up in a minute, but Dennis, you got a comment on that?
No, to me here in New England, we did get the flu heavily. I actually got the flu last year. So but with the precautions wise, as far as things you could do, it's just being conscious of where you put your hands, conscious of, having the Lysol wipes and everything to clean up surfaces, to clean up steering wheel, things that you touch normally on a day-to-day basis, and also avoid places like for me, I have young kids. It's pretty hard to keep them out of school, right? But then that's their, how that is. So washing hands in and out of school, washing hands as soon as we get home, washing hands and face as soon as we, before we leave the house, like things that are like constantly cleaning and being aware that, your hands are always, so I think I tell them like, hands are always dirty. So that's why we have to wash them specifically when they're going to school and whatnot. And then I would try to and this is something you should be doing already, stocking up on things that would be causing that would treat symptoms like diarrhea, things that you have at home that we potentially be dehydrating yourself. And so all those things just have an excess of at home, whether it's flu season or not, because you never know. And one of the things that worries me about this particular situation with the emphasis in the media and how it's being treated is we may get, forced to be quarantined on sections. And then it's like, oh, you actually can't even go to the store to get stuff, right? So, or you can't even, so that those preparations that you made beforehand are going to be vital and are going to be, if you're doing right now, you're like, I have no mask, I have no medicine. That's kind of a little late to the game, but just go rush to the store and try to get it, right? So things that are going to likely run out that could be treatment for the symptoms, right? You're not saying you're going to cure the virus, but
Right.
Things like that. And just be hyper aware of where you put your hands and where you go and who you see. Just be hyper aware of people coughing too.
See, one thing, because one thing that Jeff said that I think it kind of is kind of bothering. It's not bothering you, but you understand in China and Singapore and the further you go south, over there right now where this thing is spreading, it is summer. It's summer in Singapore, and this thing has been, I mean, one guy walked downtown and 14 people got it. And it's in the middle of summer over there. And so, it's just interesting because even Donald Trump made a comment, well, when the summer comes, this thing should die down. And if you look at in Australia and some of the places where it's starting to take ground, you comments or flu would tell you it shouldn't. It's going to die down, but it hasn't been, which has been interesting.
No.
Well, it'd be, if I haven't looked at the numbers in Australia, I can't remember what they were, but as you see some of these other countries like Australia or Italy, and United States and Europe that's got some advanced medical care facility, advanced medical care, and probably more reliable reporting about diseases than perhaps China or Iran, then we'll get more information about exactly what this disease is going to do.
Yep.
How bad it's going to be. Or
Yeah.
be sick.
Australia has 30. Malaysia has 29. Singapore, I think, is 108. Now, a lot in Singapore have been getting better, but
what I find what I'd like to know is those people that got that disease, where did they get it from? Did they get it while they were in Australia? Did they get it while they were in China? Or where did they get it from?
You get it from me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 5 million people left China before they started shutting down the doors. So, and just for an example, in Seattle, they're saying that the thing's probably been around there 6 weeks. If they go back to find the first people that came in, and now people, nursing home is going to be wiped out because of it, possibly.
In another article I was reading tonight was actually saying that children might be the key to this, because children with healthy immune systems, they might be carrying the virus for weeks at a time and be around their parents and not show a single sign of it. And next thing you know, it's gone throughout an entire school system with only a few kids actually showing that. But here you have double the amount of adults, going back into their workplaces with the virus.
And I got an email today that stated that, now it's pretty accurate, I think, that children under the age of 12, no one has died. Not a kid has died under the age of 12 that we know of, which is amazing. And the guy did some research. The guy was on the Stephen K. Bannon show, and so it's got to be somewhat credible, I would think. He's not putting out their information. So have you guys run off to the store and got your ibuprofen and water and tampons, all the things that you need? And so most of the preppers, we've done that. But have you done anything like that?
Yeah, I have, and things like from being in this game for a while, like we have like miner's lettuce that we could use to make some stuff to ease pain. We have some things that are like in the backyard and in the greenhouse growing that are medicinal, in case even if we do run out. I don't expect to run out because we have a lot, and mostly to treat some of those more severe like nausea, diarrhea, fevers, and things that are manageable on the symptoms. And one thing that I want to bring up, like also, if you look at in Kyle kind of brought this up when talking about like the immune system, and like if you do things that prop up and help your immune system, like getting your sleep, dieting, or not dieting, but like eating healthy and exercising, and things that are like going to like help your body get stronger, that's honestly the best way for you to fight things like this, because there's no 100% way you can avoid being in public unless you just go into the woods and never have contact with anyone. For people like me, have kids, that's not going to be a possibility, right? So you got to take those precautions, and also make sure you're stocked up and make sure that you know what you have.
And when you guys are going out and getting stuff, because I think we've all kind of looked at what we had, thought if this is like the last opportunity, because I worked in logistics for years, and I know that if they're saying right now we're going to run out in April, some shelves are going to start to empty. People don't realize it's going to happen on the East Coast first, And then 2 weeks later, you're going to see it more in the Midwest. And then 2 weeks after that, you're going to see it really on the West Coast. But we're going to get hit first because that's the way the supply chain is run. But are you starting to see people, and I'm seeing this, I'm wondering if you guys are, a sense of alarm? It's not panic yet, but there's definitely a lot of alarm. And you can see those people who wouldn't usually be doing this going out and buying extra rice and beans and things like that.
Yeah, and I honestly don't think it's a bad thing because then it forces them to prep, right? I mean, if this is what it takes for a lot of people to do this, might as well let them scared a little bit, rightfully so or not. Yeah.
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 I was at Walmart today. I didn't see anything unusual other than I did buy some hand sanitizer today. I probably got all I need for a very long time, but I bought some more. I noticed there were fewer. There was, I guess, a lower inventory than what they would normally have.
Mm-hmm.
But, I didn't really notice anything else that was low on inventory, at least at the Walmart here in Jackson, Alabama. So,
Yeah, but in your city and in the Georgia, I think you're from the Georgia area. Or no, are you in the Georgia area?
who, me?
Yeah,
South Alabama.
South Alabama. Oh my gosh, I would have not invited. No, I'm
Roll
kidding.
Tide.
Oh no, but if you go to Seattle in the Washington area, they're saying there's lines to get into Costco.
Yeah,
There's been many photos of this, and how many people have it out there? I forget. I didn't even look it up, but there's not many people that have it out there, and the panic buying is going on. Let's see here. Well,
They're estimating they could be up in the thousands of what's actually infected, but are not diagnosed yet.
Yeah, they have like 14 right now.
Yeah.
Here's what's bothering me is you see the cases that are confirmed versus the actual death rate of what's up there.
Mm-hmm.
And the death rate's actually a bit higher than what we've seen in other places.
Well, because
I know it's hitting an older population.
Right. Mm-hmm. It is hitting older.
I'll miss you.
Yeah, and the way to avoid the panic is to go ahead and be planning today. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
And you should be doing this all the time anyway. Think about your stores of food that you would need for your family for a period of time, whether it's for the flu or whether it's for economic bad times or anything else, and prepare your family that way. That way, when something bad happens, you're not going to be in a rush. You're not going to try to run out to the store and in the panic and buy things that you don't need, because quite often in a panic you're going to go buy something and then you're going to throw it away in a few months. So if right now, if you don't have a store of supplies or food that's available to you that could, for a period of time, whatever you decide you think you need that for, now's the time to go be looking into it, be doing it.
So I went today to Walmart Market, and I've been doing this for probably for about 2 weeks. Every day I would go into a grocery store, go into a Lowe's and a Home Depot, and just kind of watch. And I kid you not, today I was in Home Depot, Lowe's, and I would say that almost half the people I saw, they did walk down the paint aisle where the mask and gloves are. And some of them were literally too embarrassed to literally stop and look. They would walk and they would look to see right where the masks are, because the gloves are there, and right there in the paint section. And then they would just keep on walking. Some of them would just kind of walk, and there's no other reason they walk down that aisle just to look at the shelf to see if there are any. But I think people were looking. And then I was at the grocery store, and I was looking at people's shopping carts, and it was kind of disappointing because their carts were just normal groceries, small carts with just a small few things. I think Americans, we depend on that grocery store, the just-in-time inventory. When we need something Thursday night's meal, we'll go Wednesday to get it for Thursday.
Right.
But no one was piling on, the hamburger like I was. When I've been the last few times, I was piling on a few things. People could literally say, that guy's prepping, because I think I bought like 24 boxes of macaroni and cheese. Who does that? I do. Right. And so, but no one else was buying it. But anyway, so with that said, and this is the $1 million question. How long will we have to bug in for before things get back to normal? What's the time period? Dennis, what do you think?
I don't think we know. I don't
Yeah.
think we know. It's like what you said earlier. Like normally with the flu and influenza, you would see it tapering off on the months of like March, April, May. By May you really don't see much of it. A lot of the, like you said, a lot of the like southern hemisphere countries are still getting this, and there's this summer is basically the equivalent of like a May or a July for them. So I don't see how this is going to react. Honestly, my best recommendation is just figure out what you need for at least for a month, and then just be at least a month ahead, right? And then just kind of keep that first in out, like so you replace as you go and as you can. And one thing that I want to say about the masks, I think that the masks give people a false sense of security. I don't think they're as effective as people think they are. And also, what I've noticed is, and this is me, like unless you have like a cartridge mask that actually filters out a lot of those small particles, that's just trapping air moisture in there, and it makes you touch your face more. So I feel like that is actually like a false sense of. I mean, people need to do that to feel better, do it, but I don't think it's helping much people. It's actually, I think, increasing your touches to your face and increasing how much you miss, and it gets moist and you breathe in there. So whatever stays in there just festers. So I don't know how I feel about those masks unless you have one that filters out, has a good seal around your face. But yeah, I'd say at least a month out, and I don't think we'll know anytime soon how long this will go for, or if we don't. I hope it doesn't get better. I mean, it doesn't get worse before it gets better, but I think it will get worse before it gets better around here.
Yeah, Jeff, you got any comments on that?
Well, I think it will get worse before it gets better because it's just now getting over here, and we really just now experiencing it, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I think it's prudent to have a month's worth of food. I think it's at all times. So not just preparing for this, but if you try to live a prepared life, then when something like this comes around, it's not going to be that big of a panic for you. Of course, you got to go out and buy a few things that maybe you wouldn't normally buy, but go ahead and start preparing now for things that's going to happen in the future, and that way, when bad times come, they won't be so bad. And that's the whole idea behind it.
If someone only had a month's worth of food, I'm not even sure I'd call them a prepper.
Well,
I mean, that's a government obedient person.
Somewhere.
Yeah, I know, but.
And then one thing I'll say is, like, you also gotta play the what if game. Us prepper, I think we're notorious or famous, whichever way you want to see it, for playing the what ifs game, right? Like, what happens if things get worse and we do mandatory quarantine and we get curfews and we get all these things that are like mandatory? What happens then, right? We're talking about security. We're talking about people maybe on the street. So we got to figure things out now. Every day it's worse day to prepare than the prior, but it's better than the following day. So just look at those things and think about scenarios that could happen in your specific area.
Say what?
You got a question?
Oh yeah. I wonder what you were touching me for again. Gosh, that's how we all die.
Oh my
virus
gosh.
right here.
I think it's 3 feet. You need to be separated.
Yeah, no, he
We
puts the chairs
couldn't
right
because
next
of
to
the
each other.
camera. Go ahead.
For you guys, I mean, I don't know. For he and I, what we've talked about, we never really intended probably it was going to be a pandemic. We did some preparation for it, but I kind of figured probably like most of you guys, it'll happen down the road, but it's not going to be the first thing that happens. And now seeing it, the scenarios I feel like have changed. The dynamics have shifted where my mind was at one point where, hey, I'm going to definitely bug out. Now it's more like, well, I got to kind of see this through until it comes to the point where I need to bug in.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm bugging in, I'm probably going to see an economic collapse. I'm probably going to see, I mean, I would probably say a surveillance state start to rise up and start to look a little bit more like China, kind of like what they were doing with all their citizens. And they have voluntary apps where you know who has the disease and where you can go and where you cannot go. And now certain pieces, and I'd say, Jeff, you might see some of this as well, are kind of coming together where I see this, and I hate to say the New World Order sort of thing, but that's what I feel like. And did you guys, has your paradigm shifted that you're more worried about bugging in now and how the world's going to change if you can't go outside while there's this virus?
Well, I live in a very rural area. I don't think I'm going to have to worry about not being able to go outside, but I might not be able to come to town. But I don't know. My plan is to be where I'm at. But I don't see, like I said, I'm in 300 something acres of property, and I can't even see my neighbors. My closest one is probably 1,000 feet away, so I'm not gonna have to worry about that part. But I think if you work with a preparedness mindset and kind of try to think of what are the negative things that can happen to yourself and your family, and you've got this virus here now. This is one of these negative things that perhaps I hadn't really thought about. And what's the likelihood it can happen to you and your family, and what are the negative consequences, and then kind of prepare from there. And yes, there are some steps that perhaps you should take right now if you haven't done anything. Dennis has talked about some things here that would be some good advice for somebody if they don't have some medical supplies in their house, to go to the store tomorrow and buy some medical supplies. Mm-hmm. If you don't have some food in your house, go tomorrow and buy some food for your house. But then sit back and do a systematic approach about it, because you don't want to go out there and just start throwing money out that on use things that you're going to throw away in a few months. But as far as I don't know, Kyle. I don't see that right now. I'm not saying it can't go into that as far as the New World Order. I believe that's something that's likely to happen to us, and possibly in our lifetimes. But I don't know about this right now, and it may be. I mean, that's the scary thing about things. You just don't know. But if you try to prepare yourself by thinking about those scenarios, like I talked about, and just try to do things today, so that when bad times come, they won't be so bad. Then that's the whole idea behind it.
Mm-hmm. What say you, Dennis?
Yeah, and I think so. Me personally, I live in a pretty rural area in New England. We're a pretty tight-knit community of about 20 houses, and we're like live free or die mentality. So it's kind of a group like that. I do have locations that are farther away into. So for someone who lives in the city, who lives in a suburban area, that's going to be more of an issue, because the population is going to be an issue. That's the threat is basically other people at this point, whether they're not really being violent, but they coughing around you. So basically that's basically a lot of the risk right now. So I would recommend definitely if you are in an urban area, have a way, start working on your group. And Forrest, you preach this more than anyone. Just your group, try to find communities around you that you can get to that are a lot, less populated, a lot less, and start making friends in those areas. Start, building. And then right now, even though the panic button's kind of been tapped on like by the media and everyone, you still have time to do things, and you still have time to get a lot of the preparations you would need and still get ahead of the game. Not think like, everything is lost. Like baby steps a lot of times, it will get you there. But to me, I feel like this is one of those situations that bugging in and staying in, it's absolutely the best option. So you want to hunker down and see that you have everything you need inside your house. Less because again, bugging out would be putting yourself in extra risk unnecessarily at this point.
So this morning, I was talking to a lot of you guys in PrepperNet know Native, and Native asked me a question. He goes, I got to ask you a serious question. We were talking about business before this, but he asked me, he goes, I got to ask you a serious question. You and your group, because everybody knows my group's been around for like 19 years. What is at this point, the pandemic's kind of happening, what is your trigger point to go to your retreat? And I share way more than I probably should, but I just feel that our group's pretty well planned. But I told him that we're going to bug in until we see food run out. That is our trigger point. When we start seeing food run out and it not being the next day, it's not being resupplied. That is our bug out. That's when boom, we're gone. And if we see a delay or we seeing people camp out in lines, for the next day, that is about the time that we're gonna leave. If we can time it, that's the problem. You got to time it right. But you guys, there's a great video on YouTube. It's called, I think it's called 9 Meals to Anarchy. And when people can't eat, that's when you and your family are at danger and risk. Before that, I don't see, I guess I'll share this. I always share more than I should, but at Son Oven right now, we're booming because people are buying Son Oven. It's a preparedness product, and people are buying it. We can't make them fast enough, and because it's a proven amazing product. But if I have to lock down with my family for 30 days and just take it easy, that's not a bad thing. As long as we can eat and don't have to go out, we'll get sick of Crazy Eights, or we actually play Phase 10. Sorry.
We play Call of Duty.
Well, but you probably do. But anyway, my point there is when the food stops, I think that's when the danger starts. I think that is more important. You agree, Dennis? You're shaking your head there.
Yeah, I do, because like I said, it's not just that you're going to run out of food, but your neighbors on the street are also going to run out of food, and you don't know how they're going to react. And depending on how you're set up or who your neighbors are, they may know you're the prepper in town, right? They may know, for better or for worse, that you're the one who has the extra food and the extra. That's why I think what you preach and what you teach is so important with the survival groups, that you take care of them, they take care of you, and they don't turn on you when the moment comes when something like that happens. Because throughout history, mankind has been in tribes, and there's the solo lone survivor doesn't really make it you never hear of them because they never make it.
Right.
So
when it comes to those tribes, and I'm sure you guys have given this thought, and you have to adjust it for what's happening right now, but if it does become a full-blown pandemic and it takes over the states, what sort of precautions or guidelines are you putting in place? Because inevitably family and friends and possibly even coworkers will show up.
Jeff, are you going to take care of your entire company? Because they got to know. I mean, the spreadsheet you did and you shared with me, I'm like, okay, this guy has thought about this all his life. But are you going to take care of your coworkers and your family and friends?
That's a good question.
Or is that why you got AR-15s?
Well, we have those too.
And then Jeff disappears.
Jeff's like, I don't want to talk about this. They could be watching.
it's like, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that question is. And I've got some thoughts on it that I'll probably just keep to myself. But you got to be able to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can't take care of yourself, you can't help anybody. But a pandemic type thing, I think, is probably unique in the desire to help others, and then the desire to protect yourself and your family. Because take this disease, for example, you have people that can be walking around for 2 weeks, be carriers, and not even know it. So you could bring a person into your family or to your home, and they're a carrier, and they get your whole family sick. So it's going to be a unique thing from other hardships that we would encounter. The physical harm, the social unrest types of situation. This is a completely different thing, because everyone, even your friend, could be a potential threat to your family. So you gotta have to be real careful with that. If it comes down to that situation, I'm hoping it doesn't. But if it does, it's a whole different thing. Do you quarantine these people for a period of time? Where have they been? It's a lot of stuff to think about, and I haven't completely thought it all the way through myself. but yeah, it's gonna be different. It's a lot different than a family person coming up and just saying, "Hey, I'm hungry," because they can't get groceries at the grocery store. Now you got to consider where have they been and what kind of threat do they pose to the health of your family. So I don't know. I don't know what the right answer to that is.
Jeff, I've already been asked by friends if I would give them or sell them N95 mask. Because, everyone knows much. I guess when you write a book and you tell everybody you do prepper, everybody knows. And I've actually had a couple of friends ask me for N95 mask. And, I quickly changed the subject as much as I could, because I'm thinking at the time, one guy asked me, you could still find them in stores. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I should just shoot you now. I didn't say that out loud or even in my mind, but that should have been my thought. But anyway, so Dennis, when people knock on your door and say, hey, me and my family need food, what do you do?
So first, it's a case by case scenario, who it is and what's going on. But I tend to think that I tend to think that I would always have like, hey, this is all I have, and give him a little bit, but not, because what really gets scary is somebody's like knows you have something and you don't give him anything. It's kind of like next time they may come different attitude, right? So appeasing that a little bit and say, hey, we're all struggling here. I can give you, this is about as much as I can give you, or something along those lines. Something is going to take care of him for a minute, and then you can be treated, because it's not always going to come back to you. You can say, hey, I don't see a scenario where they're like always coming to you, although it may happen. So you got to be, like I say, it's got to be a case by case. That's why it's important to have, I think, having that group and that community around you, that you have each other's back, and you also help each other, right? You also like, hey, let's put this big order of wheat, and then we all have, and we'll all share this, and this big order of something, and then we're all, you're able to get more resources, keep an eye on each other. We're very lucky where we are. We have about 20 houses, and 5 or 6 of them around us are all kind of very similar. It's the beauty of New England, the live free or die type of mentality in a lot of ways. So we're kind of here in the woods. So in that sense, it's lucky. But somebody who's not in that situation, there's around the city is always going to be an area that is going to be ideal for you to go or have friends or have contacts in those areas to do that. So I think, again, there's no 100% sure answer to that, but it's a case by case scenario. And the more people around you, the more resources you have of resources around you, the better you are for that.
Here's my problem. It's, I got a group. We have planned for 19 years. We've got resources, but they're not here. The joke is, I tell everybody, my actual bug out retreat, I live in North Carolina, is in Miami, Florida. It's right on the beach. So if you want to find me during the apocalypse,
you'll be at the beach.
I'll be there on the beach. Because I'm not going to tell you where I'm going. I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm not going to tell you. But all my supplies are down at the beach. And so I'm having to kind of restock my house a little bit, going, okay, I know we have a lot of hand sanitizer down at the beach, but I don't have it a lot here because I never planned to stay here much. Every disaster, the only one that I would stay here would be a pandemic. If it's a war, financial collapse, any other one, I would be going to the beach to my retreat.
And see, that's one of the things where I struggle right now, is because I feel like the longer we stay put, it's just a slow rot of the system, and it's just going to get worse day by day by day, and you literally become the frog in the pot.
That is a concern.
Yeah,
for sure.
And going back on kind of the question posed for what you guys will be doing, I know personally we've talked about it with family and friends and everything. I've kind of told everyone that I would kind of give that golden ticket to. There's going to be like a 28 days later policy, to quote the movie, excellent movie, But it's basically, if that's the period of time that people can be asymptomatic and, barely be showing any symptoms, that's the period of time that they can stay in one certain area. And then whenever that has passed, I'll integrate them in somehow. It doesn't mean I'm just going to, let them in to have all the food that they want, but they're going to be working. They're going to be doing something to be contributing to it. I've had people ask me, like, well, would you give this person a gun or that person a gun? And no,
Never
I wouldn't
give
give him
guns.
no, I would trust him. He has his own guns anyways. Actually, I even built one of them.
You did, and I got one behind me in case you touch me.
Yeah.
So good point. This is a pandemic. We get through a pandemic with power, mostly, with a lot of the utilities still working. It's a weird thing that I really have never gone through my head much. Have you, Dennis, gone through a pandemic like this?
No, so what I have gone through is an exercise of like there's a bio attack and everybody's like contaminated, so you have to like hunker down and do things like that. That's an extreme that you can't even breathe the air, right? So, but this feels so. Two things, like people may get comfortable because the TV's on, the internet works, the lights are on, the water's still running. I can just run to the store anytime, right? So, but you may run out of options fairly quickly if something, especially if the government does overreact, especially state and municipal governments overreact to cases. You can get stuck in your own home and not have anything or anywhere to go, and then you're out of luck, even though you have power and water and whatever, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Jeff, what do you think?
Well, I agree. I think we just Dennis has give us some ideas, some things that we should go out and buy now. But to have in our homes, if you're in an urban area, most people can't bug out. Most people would have to bug in. They don't have a place to go. Far as you're a fortunate person, you've got a place to go. I'm fortunate I live way out in the country, but most people have no place to go, so they're gonna have to figure out what they're gonna do where they are. So
I have an important question for you guys, and I've thought about this, and I'm sure at some point this has crossed your mind. It's kind of what you do already. When we talk about groups and how essential they are, it's like for someone like Dennis, it's great to be in a small area, still rural, but have that support in your neighbors. And you guys might have more of a triumvirate of certain leaders who are very qualified to lead. But then there's those of us who people are going to seek out because they know that we're preppers. How prepared are you guys to step up within your communities to give guidance whenever things happen? Because the reality is the government's not going to be really that worried about individuals out in rural communities, but people are going to look to their neighbors for assistance. And have you guys given that thought?
We have to an extent, and it's been kind of really cautious of who we tell, what we tell, and really cautious of who we kind of let in. It would be like if we're not friends or someone who you like enjoy spending time, we typically wouldn't like too trustily open the door and let you in and say, hey, we have, this is what we're doing, check this out. This is people that we normally would hang out with, the people that we're actually like, my kids are friends with their kids, and it's kind of like, okay, I know you, trust you, I know what's going on here, and we're neighbors. And so that is, again, there's only 20 houses, but only like 3 or 4 of them are actually part of this community. And it's really like this idea that when something like this happens, just check on each other, and we have some sort of like the ham radio. It's like perfect for this area. So that's kind of where if somebody does arise that we would seek for help, we would have to talk about it and decide as a group, really. There's no one real leader. There's no like just basically everybody has their strengths and their weaknesses, and kind of like rely on each other for that. But it'd be more of a group conversation at that point.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I agree. And if you want to read my books, I'm not trying to sell my books right now, but if you want to read my books, this is the topic in my books. This very thing that we're talking about right now. A community in a Schumer or Schiff hit the fan situation, and a community coming together. And I think for a lot of people, it's going to take a very major thing to make them come around to, hey, yeah, maybe I should do something. So it's gonna probably take something to push people into wanting to work together. But again, when we talked about, if we're talking about a pandemic, and the pandemic is the catalyst for all these situations, and that's a very different thing altogether. Very, very different.
It's definitely a difficult thing, but I think that's one of the things that, as I start to see the news come out, and I think about my personal responsibility as, you know, a family man, as a Christian, I think that it's a hard call to make, but if I follow procedures to kind of make sure that it doesn't spread in my local community and people who come to me, it's then kind of my responsibility to step up and be there for those people and try and offer some guidance, because I think if some of us believe we're living in certain days and we have a responsibility, and it may be the last chance some people ever get to come to Christ, and we should lead by example. I feel like that's becoming more fortified as we see, stuff start to slide.
So, question: what is there anything that you've actually gone out and bought that is not something of the norm?
So I stocked up a little extra on Pedialyte and kind of immune system, kind of like vitamin C type of like the powder that you kind of like put when you're I think it's called emergency. Just basically boost up a little bit your immune system, and then we just started drinking that every day before you got out of the house, just as a way to kind of add a little more energy to the immune system there, which is something we didn't have before, and it's just now part of the preps that we had. Pedialyte and Gatorade and things like that were like, okay, if we run, actually, if the water goes out, if we like getting dehydrated, those hydrate a lot quicker than water. So things like that, especially with kids, like that's one of the big worries. You can keep the fever and the dehydration in check. Like typically, everything else kind of like sorts itself out with something like this.
That is kind of the biggest concern with this one is your fever gets to 104, 105 to 106, and that's how you tell this is a little different than. And with the flu, you get the aches and sweats. You don't with this one. But Jeff, you buy anything different?
Well, other than what Dennis has mentioned now, I guess the only thing I've actually gone out and bought that this event has caused me to do is probably been some extra N95 masks. That's why I say if people will start it and have a plan, work a plan, and they don't, when these situations come up, they're not going to be panicking. So start now, buy some things that you need, and this, we're going to get through this situation. I mean, it's going to come, it's going to go, and it's going to pass, and things will get back to some kind of normal. But don't forget about this, and don't say, okay, well, I don't need to prepare anymore. I'm through this event.
Well, the coolest thing is, I'm sorry, were you not finished?
No, go ahead.
The coolest thing is we have a lot more preppers in America now than we did a month ago. I mean, I know people have died, and I hate that. But we have preppers all over America right now that are probably for the first time ever started thinking like I did and you guys did for the first time 15 to 40 years ago, whenever you did when you were 2, thinking maybe I need to save some stuff. And all of a sudden now, I think this is going to be a huge influx. Well, we're growing like crazy at PrepperNet, but an influx. Everyone that's teaching prepping stuff, it's going to be there's going to be just a ton of more people. I can't see that as a bad thing. Can you?
The only thing I'll say on that is, having been in this for a while, and being being exposed to a lot of content out there, just be careful who you listen to, and who you learn from, because again, like with attention comes opportunity for a lot of people, and a lot of people would just like pop up fly by night business. Hey, we teach prepping, and they
Right.
never even like swung a hammer, right? So
He's still
that's
waiting for Planet X.
Yeah.
so in that sense, just make sure you have there's a lot of really legit, really good resources out there, and so just be careful who you learn from, because even though like don't go learn survival from the Walking Dead and then just try to make it work in the real world.
I've often said zombies are like my ideal scenario because that's a walk in the park.
Yeah, they can't. I mean, unless they're the zombies from like 28 days later, they're pretty fast. I think I can outrun most zombies.
Well, you know,
I'll
Dennis makes
definitely outrun him.
Go ahead,
a
Jeff.
very good point. There is where are you going to get information from, because there are a lot of experts in the prepping field who really aren't experts,
Mm-hmm.
and so you need to be careful and find some reputable people, not just somebody who's got a good spill or good speech, can read a few things off to you to, you know, talk as if they have authority. But you need people that's got some good information, and you can go to Dennis's website, Survival Ready blog, and
Thank you.
he's got a ton of information there about all types of things
Mm-hmm.
that would be useful. So you do have to be careful, and I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have as preppers is we've got more experts than there actually are experts.
Here's how I weed them out.
Pardon?
And I do, and I actually tell people this, and I know one day it's going to get me in big trouble because I'm even apprehensive of saying it right now, because I tell people if your survival person, your prepper person is not speaking and talking to you from with the foundation of being in a group, then that person just has knowledge and a personal skill. But if my statement is true, which I believe it is with all my heart, that a community is the most important prep. If that's the case, then every good survival teacher should be teaching from that point of view, meaning, hey, you gotta have these skills in your group. You gotta have these skills in your group. You gotta be able to bring this to your group. And if a guy is just teaching you wood and then all these little things, and not from a aspect of a community, I'll even make this statement. And again, I just put myself on the line too much, I guess. If you're prepper instructor or the YouTube you're watching, if he doesn't talk about his group, or if he doesn't say that you need to be in a group, get rid of him. If the most important prep you have is a group, everything has to surround that. That is everyone's ultimate goal in PrepperNet. I hope I instill this in people. It could be your family. It could be 10 people. It could be 3 people. It could be like in my group, we have 114 people, counting the kids and the parents and everything. It's a huge group. But everything I teach and everything that I talk about, I share a lot about my group, and people know that I'm in a group. Some of my group people, which kind of scares me. He's not in my group, by the way. He's not.
He knows you too well.
He's not. But everybody thinks you are.
You'd be so lucky.
Yeah, whatever. But anyway, I like when people talk about prepping from a group standpoint, because I believe the group is your most important prep. And you want to second me on that, right? But
I do. I think whenever someone actually talks about a group or the intent to build a group, it shows compassion from that person. And if they're not doing that, for as long as I've been in prepping, and I've done over the years, I did forum admin stuff, and I did blog TV, and I did YouTube for a little while, way back like a decade ago. But I've come across people who say they're into prepping, will try and meet up with you, will try and talk to you, and here the entire time they're gathering intel on you. They're trying to find out what you have because they are strictly a gun prepper and they have the best of everything, and their plan is to come take what you have. That's how we met, right? No, I'm kidding.
It was weird, and that might be the hat. He was literally sitting in the chair
It wasn't
at church,
the same hat, no.
And I'm like, I think I went up to him and said, "Are you a prepper?" I don't know. Anyway, Dennis, what do you got to say? And then we'll go to Jeff too.
No, yeah, and with that, so first off, like, see how long they've been teaching prepping, because if they were teaching prepping only after it was cool, quote unquote, just that's a big red flag, right? Just look at people who have published way back, years ago, or have been at the game for a while. Those are things. Those are people. Even though you still may find some flaky people there, you just make sure that you do that. Also, one thing that you mentioned about the groups, and I think one point that I want to bring is learn a skill like that, become a specialist of a skill that would make you valuable to that group, because
Right.
that increases your value no matter what situation. So, and then see what skills are going to be, in demand, like mechanical skills, medicinal skills, hunting, trapping, food production, all those things that are, you don't have to be the end all be all prepper. And then, because again, lone survival is don't survive. And I think the idea is that becoming a specialist of the thing, something you enjoy, something you like, that will make you more valuable towards the group eventually when you're like looking to do that. And again, just be careful who you learn to, be careful who you let in, and no skills, no value. Exactly. Yeah. It's only so much stuff you can store, but the value and of your skills is just something that you take with you.
That could be something that saves your life too. If you come down to any particular number of scenarios where your life depends on getting brought into another group, and you say, I was a lawyer.
Wait, Glenn Tate has skills. Come on.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
But I mean, probably one of your best skills is communications.
Really?
Well, not communicating individually on a day-to-day basis, because you're off with that. We can go ask your wife real quick. No, but the ham radio and everything like that, that's something that I don't have.
Yeah, you're weak on communications.
I am for sure, but I'm definitely an introvert.
So, Jeff, what about you? What do you got to say about that?
Well, we were talking. Kyle was mentioning about the lone wolf kind of, scoping things out. And David Crawford, he wrote a book called Lights Out years ago. It was a very, very well.
Oh yeah, I've read that. Yeah.
But he also wrote a second book called Collision Course, and he got a lot of negative press about it because he addressed that very topic you're talking about, Kyle. And I at first got really upset with the book too, until I got to the end and I finally understood what he was writing about. It was a very story that would make you think about the exact situation that you were talking about, Kyle. You ought to check it out. It's called Collision Course by David Crawford.
Okay.
Take a look at that.
Yep. So, any last words? What advice, if you could get in the podium in the White House, Jeff, and you get to tell people what to do over the next month, how to react, what would you say?
Stay calm. And I really don't like telling people what to do, except the guy. I like telling them what to do.
Right.
But just what we talked about today. If you don't have some things in your home, some things that we've talked about that Dennis has mentioned, and I'm sure that some of your other guests on the other shows have come up with those lists. I'd go back and read these shows, listen to these shows, and if I didn't have supplies, I would go secure some supplies. And then I would also say that in the bigger picture is to think about the future, not just the next few weeks, which you need to think about because those few weeks are coming up on us. But you got to think further down the road because there's all kind of scenarios that we could get into. We got this pandemic possibility here. We still don't know exactly what that's going to be, but you got what's going to have come after that. Okay. Kyle's got some ideas and it very well could be something like that. So you need to prepare yourselves for those type of things as well. So you don't want to be in a constant state of panic with every new little situation that comes up.
Dennis, what would you tell America? First, you'd raise taxes, and then what?
So if I'm at the White House and being at the podium of the White House, and I want to really do a service to people, what I would say is, we're not coming to help you, because that would force people to figure out, okay, I got to figure this out on my own,
Mm-hmm.
right? They would say, hey, we're not coming. Don't wait for us. We're not coming. Now, if I'm Dennis saying to the people listening, to the watching this, is you're also not alone, and there's people that you can rely on, and there's people you can build around, and there's people, again, Navy SEALs don't go out there by themselves. Like even the top elite, more in shape, more skillful, the most skillful people on the planet don't go out on their own, right? So remember, you're not alone. You can rely on others, but you have to do your homework ahead of time, and you have to do it today, like not wait till the actually things get really out of hand.
So I think the biggest concern is not the virus itself. It is the reaction of people, and also maybe the supply chain in the next month or 2 months. And because we all know, and people have been putting it in the comments over there, our antibiotics are made in China, our vitamin C is made in China, the N95 mask, all this stuff is made in China. It's going to take years and years to get that stuff back to America and made in America. In the meantime, there could be a shortage on all this stuff for the next 6 months. And so with that said, you can actually overcome it pretty easy by having everything you kind of need, the basics, for the next however many months it is. And then this should be, if you have if you have the supply that Kyle has, this is just a this is just a flu season. It's no different, except a couple people are staying home because their kids have it, and he may have to stay home because he may have it. But other than that, it's just a flu season, and he gets through it with no bruises. But if you don't have that supply, if you don't have ibuprofen, you need ibuprofen. I mean, I will say this, guys, you need to plan on exactly like Dennis said, you need to plan on self-medicating and getting through this yourself, because the hospitals are going to be nothing but disease factories, and they're going to be overwhelmed and overburdened at some point. And if it's just like the flu and it's the fever, the most thing, you need to have ibuprofen, you need to have fluids, you need to have Campbell's soup, I don't know, things to get you through it. Because the last thing you want to do, unless you you want to be deathly sick before you go to the hospital. That's my 2 cents. What do you guys think?
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think, like, having all the extra medication, the over the counter, everything you can get, but also get familiar with alternative medicine, alternative remedies, and things that you can actually grow in your own home that it's not going to be an Advil, but it may help you a lot. And some of those things are miraculous, not to be like, some of those things are really effective. So just, all you need, you just buy a little book, start doing that, and you can actually get a lot of these herbs and plants and remedies, like on like, those are not flying off the shelf. I guarantee you that.
Right. Jeff, what do you think?
Well, I think it's, exactly what you were saying, and Dennis has been saying, and I've been saying, and Kyle's been saying, think about what you're going to need for a period of time. Decide what that period of time is. I can't tell you what that period of time is.
Right.
You decide what that period of time is, and then make your plans to secure those items. Do it now. We've, at least in my part of the country, there's no panic going on, so that's the time to be doing things. You don't want to be like the people in wherever that was, Washington State, where
right.
they were lined up out Costco all the way out to the highway. I saw some of that in the news. You don't want to be going to Costco when that happens.
So Jeff, let's we're going to wrap this up. Tell us about where people can get up, find you, interact with you. Tell them about your books, and tell them about the big series you're coming out with. Now, I don't even know if you're coming out with another or not, but tell us what's going on. Tell us about your books. People, I'm sure, want to know, and then we'll go ahead.
Okay. Well, the best way to get in touch with me is on Facebook. I don't have a website. So if you want to look me up on Facebook, my name's Jeff Moat. There's I think you'll be able to tell who's who there. My book also has a Facebook page, Once Upon an Apocalypse. If you do that search, it'll bring it up. Uh, and there's a lot of little tips that I put on the website, on the Facebook page, uh, preparedness tips, or sometimes links to other preparedness people that have uh, good information that could be useful. The books are kind of, I don't know exactly how to describe them. I guess I was on Facebook talking to family and friends about being prepared, and they had a lot of questions. So I wrote the books from that standpoint, answering those questions. So there's a lot of information embedded inside the story, to try to provide the reader with some useful information. And I talk about some group stuff in there as well as you get on into the book, into the series. The main characters are Christian in the book, but it's not a Bible study, so you're not going to get a Bible study out of it. But there are prayers in there, and I answer some of the reasons on my Facebook page as to why they're in there. But it does affect how they interact with each other and how they react to the situations that's unfolding around them. So if you want to, they're available on Amazon, and Audible, and paperback, ebook, audio. But the best way, if you want to interact with me, is to go to Facebook, look me up, or go to my Facebook page for my book, Once Upon an Apocalypse. And there's a lot of useful information there, and there's also some of the audio from the book is actually on the web, on that Facebook page. You have to scroll down through there to find it. But
Sweet. Thanks, Jeff. Now, Dennis, I know you got lots of things going on, and you got, I think, a big event coming. So tell us all about you, what's going on, and what you have planned.
So people want to reach more about my blog is survivalreadyblog.com. You can find all the information there, a lot of content there. We have over 200 pages of content there. The event is a virtual event, so it's a virtual conference. So you don't actually have to go anywhere. You can just, as soon as it's a free event that is just going to be available in May. You can go to prepperworldsummit.com and get access to the list, and we'll sign up for the list, and we'll put you into when the event is actually ready in May. We'll send you how to access that. So those are the best places for me to reach out to me. There you'll find our social media accounts and everything, so you can reach out to me like that. But ideally, be survivalreadyblog.com or the prepperworldsummit.com. And one thing that I want to kind of plug, although this is not my book, it's just someone I really trust, and it's a resource that I use. It's this book called The Survival Doomsday Book of Medicine. His name is Dr. Ralph LaGuardia, and he's a friend. It's an excellent resource. It's pretty thick, but it goes A to Z. He's a prepper as well. And look, Jeff has it too. So it's kind of one of my go-to, resources when I go to. It's pretty thick, so it's not a bug out friendly, but it's definitely something you want to have. He's a friend, and he appreciated that you check that out. But yeah, I mean, I feel like that's the best way for you to reach me. And you can always find me on Facebook, Dennis Diaz.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Awesome. Kyle, any last words before we end the show?
Before you shoot me?
Yeah.
No, thank you guys so much. Thanks for all the information and what you guys do.
Yeah, guys, appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And you know what? This has been going on for for 7 days. This is day 6, but I do want to share this screen with everyone. So tomorrow night, so all these shows that we've done before, guys, you can share that. You can go to our YouTube channel right where you are and share them. Some of these are perfect for brand new preppers. And so if your friends start asking you questions, send them to these. That way you're not sitting there trying to convince them. And that is that is the beauty about kind of what I was doing here. I even sent a Word document to people saying, hey, if your friends are interested, don't even ask them if they are. Send them this email. If they're interested, maybe they can watch this series and they can learn. because the worst thing it is, I mean, it just crawls underneath my skin when someone comes to me now and go, "Hey, tell me everything you need to know about. I need to know about prepping." I'm like, I just want to strangle your head off. And so that's kind of one of the reasons I did this. Dr. Bones and Nurse Amy and Charlie, we went through some very basic stuff in that. That's a good place to send people. So just share these. These are totally free. They're kind of ad free, I guess. And it's really for you to share. And so this one will be share it like crazy. There's good information here. Jeff and Dennis and this guy here said some things that make you think. And tomorrow night we're going to have Scott Hunt, good friend of mine. He is going to be in the house. I think it's just going to be Scott and I.
Yep.
And that's kind of the way we wanted to end it. Just Scott and I. We'll light a candle and we'll we'll talk through the end of the world. But thank you guys for joining us, and I'm sure we'll be connected again. And hey, you guys is watching this, thank you. Share it. Go over to preppernet.com and join. Check us out on Facebook, and that's all we have. You two stay online. We'll talk to you guys later. Thank you.
Right. Thanks everybody.
Thanks.
Have a good night.